DCU. Get it? Like DCU, meaning the DC Universe, but you, meaning you, the unwashed film-watching masses who thought Man of Steel was pretty cool and wants to try this whole comic book thing. Not really a reboot, more a revamp. Creative teams are shuffled around and new status quos are set up to create a convenient jumping-on point for new readers. Not unlike 4 years ago, where creative teams were shuffled around and new status quos were set up to create a convenient jumping-on point for new readers. Where DC gets these bold new ideas for creative directions, I don't know. Luckily, when it comes to DC, I am as unwashed as you, so I thought this whole DCU thing would be a great way to jump into the DC universe and not be confused at all. What the fuck is going on? Superman 41? That doesn't come out for another 2 weeks. Superman 42? That doesn't come out for another 6 weeks. Is this book from the future? Okay. So basically, the 4 Superman books are telling stories that all tie into the storyline Truth. The main Superman title tells the story of how Superman was outed as Clark Kent, and how he was hugely depowered, whilst Batman/Superman, Superman/Wonder Woman, and this issue, Action Comics 41, follow up on that story. It's pretty confusing if you're not in the know, and annoying for something advertised as a jumping on point. Of course, a bit of Googling solved the problem, but what sort of message does this send to people picking up a comic book for the first time? Want to understand what's going on? Better pick up all these other comics! This is why people don't want to read comics in the first place. That's more a problem with publication and advertising though. And beside that annoyance, this comic is really good. We open after the DC sneak peek of Action Comics they released online. That is also a fairly essential part of the storyline. I'll put a link to these in the description for if you're thinking of picking up any of the new DC books. Superman is mostly depowered, had his identity revealed, has lost his costume to the Fortress of Solitude, and is wandering through the Alaskan wilderness, feeling pain in a way he has never felt before. He stumbles upon a small town, where he gets new clothes and a bike, before being harassed by some of the locals. He fights them off and leaves, and we get this great page showing Clark travelling across the country, connecting with his newfound human side. However, this can't last as he is called back to Metropolis by Jimmy Olsen to find his old neighbourhood quarantined. He bonds with the people there, before running off to fight a big monster that has apparently been harassing him in these books that haven't come out yet. The final shot of the book sees the police move in on the Kent district. This book's portrayal of Clark enjoying his humanity is, honestly, one of the most endearing things I've ever read in a comic. In the hands of a lesser writer, this could have easily been a story about Clark angsting over the loss of his powers, but instead Clark is joyful about it. He enjoys every human sensation that we take for granted, and it puts a big grin on my face when I read it. That alone makes this book worth picking up, but on top of that, the art is great, the plot flows well, and the stakes are well laid out. Superheroes having their identity leaked to the world has been done before, most notably Bendis' Daredevil run, but by doing that in conjunction with losing his powers, the book strips Clark to his weakest. It shows what really makes him Superman. His commitment to doing good, his connection to humanity, and his big heart. If this story continues to be as good as this first issue, it may become a perfect place to point people when they call Superman boring. Hal Jordan, Renegade. Picking up, I'm assuming, from where Green Lantern issue 40 left off, Hal Jordan is on the run from both the Green Lanterns and every police force in the universe. The book opens in an alien fighting pit, where slaves are forced to fight giant creatures. Hal saves one of the slaves' lives, which is a great sentence to write but less so to say, before freeing him in the intermission, along with the other slaves and the creatures. Along the way, one of the slavers whispers something to him, causing Hal to kidnap him and take him back to his ship, along with the freed slave. They head to the Guardian's homeworld, only to find it gone, replaced by an asteroid field. I knew I felt a great disturbance, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror, and were suddenly silenced. I feared something terrible had happened, like I had used the word suddenly twice in the same sentence. Anyway, this book is pretty much rip-roaring space opera adventure to the T. The action is quick and dynamic, the alien landscapes and people are interesting to look at, and it sets up an interesting plot that seems to be the current status quo for the Green Lantern Corps, considering Green Lantern's lost army. I like the new dynamic of Hal Jordan, the last Green Lantern on the run with a snarky spaceship and an experimental gauntlet instead of a ring. However, the mostly white costume really leaves something to be desired, and the hair is so disgustingly 90s comics. Overall, seeing as I can't get my Cosmic Jollies at Marvel currently, considering there is no space on Battleworld, this is a strong comic that I would recommend if you like your Star Wars and your Guardians of the Galaxy and your such and such. The Epiphany has come. All over the world, Martian sleeper agents are activating and attacking, and the Martian Manhunter is actually a weapon created to invade the Earth. This book's epic, world-spanning scale feels pretty cool, and is helped by introducing a variety of characters all over the world whose eyes we see the Martians attack through. It's an engaging setup, and one that I would like to see more of. However, the first issue itself feels very weak. We are given little setup as to who the Martian Manhunter is, and why we should care for him, which is a definite no-no for an issue 1. On top of that, the cutting all over the world leaves the book feeling very disjointed, and means that not much actually happens in the first issue. We're introduced to some characters who may or may not be important, but at this point, they're in different parts of the world and have no attachment to our hero. Individually, their segments are well written. The Martians are very threatening, both in their design and actions, and the Manhunter saving a plane full of people by turning into a dragon is awesome. As an issue though, it feels very unfulfilling. I get the impression that once this story arc is complete, it will make a much better read. So unless you're a huge Martian Manhunter fan, I would say either wait for a couple more issues, or pick it up in trade. This title reminds me of something. There we go. A group of Green Lanterns led by John Stewart are lost. A lost army, if you will. In some universe they have never been to before, they are under attack by its natural antibodies, which view them as something foreign and therefore a threat. Like UKIP, but space. They fight them off and find a group of dead Green Lanterns. The ex-Guardian of the Universe and villain Krona uses the ring from one of the lanterns to track down the source of lantern energy in the universe. They are attacked again, but saved by Guy Gardner, wielding both a green and red ring. I would say like a Christmas lantern, but the book already made that joke, and I can't think of anything funnier. They arrive at the source of the energy to discover a huge red lantern pyramid, which we end the book on. John Stewart is a compelling main character. An ex-soldier, he is the leader of the group, and his musings on leadership tie the book together nicely. The alien characters, who I think are all characters from Green Lantern Corps, are interesting and likeable, with special mention going to Zril Ryrek, whose morphic empath powers are super cool. The mystery is solid, the interplay between characters is enjoyable, and the art is good. Like Green Lantern above, I would say that if you're a fan of space opera style science fiction, then this would be the book for you. Especially if you enjoy the more esoteric, strange alternate universes side of science fiction. The Mythical Superman 41, a book so important it bent space and time itself to get an editor's note reference for an important plot point before it came out. Oh, how happy I am for this legend to finally arrive. Sarcasm aside, Superman 41 sets out to tell us the story that came before Truth, the story we're seeing in every other Superman book at the moment. We start with Clark and Jimmy about to leave the Daily Planet before Clark gets a mysterious tip-off about an arms deal going down. They head to where the tip-off points them to and snap some pictures of the weapons deal. Then they are caught, attacked by a giant robot. Superman saves them and uses his crazy solar blast to destroy the robot. You know, superhero stuff. They crack the story with the help of Lois Lane and celebrate. That is, until Clark gets another mysterious message. This one telling him time to go looking for him over to the proper authorities, along with a blackmail threat of revealing his secret identity. He hands her over, but quickly goes back on it and frees her, before making an escape with Jimmy and Lois. However, the car crashes and the comic ends with someone screaming Clark and the ominous, "Next, Clark Kent. DOA." That's right, Superman's going to be a playable character in the next DOA volleyball game. I wonder how his jiggle physics will work. Of course, the DOA thing would be a lot more threatening if he wasn't A, Superman, and B, obviously alive in 5 other books that take place after this. This story is pretty fun. The characters are all well written. The action is cool, and the mysterious entity seems like he will make a great enemy for Superman. It's pretty plot heavy, without too much in the way of character. It would have been nice to have a moment where Clark is torn about what to do about the blackmailer, but his great interactions with Lois and Jimmy are more than fun enough to make up for it. Its impact is a little ruined by knowing Clark's identity will be revealed by Lois Lane, but overall, the story is fun, and hey, Superman still has his hair in it. Overall, DCU has presented some interesting ideas, and a good jumping on point for new readers, with a little legwork needed on the reader's part. If you like this video, comment if you'd like more, and what you would like to see me review. Thanks for watching.